Good afternoon. I'm Lauren Rose Hoffland, and you're watching League TV, a service of the League of Women Voters of Sheboygan County. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan grassroots political organization established in 1920 that advocates for informed and active participation in government. Our members are women and men who work to improve our systems of government and impact public policies through education and advocacy. The League neither supports nor opposes candidates for office at any level of government. Today, we are interviewing Roberta Filicky-Peneski, one of two candidates for alderperson in the City of Sheboygan, District 2. Roberta was appointed to the position of alder in 2020 to fill a vacancy in the City Council. Our interview with John Ranieri, the challenger, is also featured on League TV. Roberta, before we begin the interview, we want to thank you for agreeing to meet with us today, but also for investing your time and resources in running for office.
Thank you very much. I appreciate what the League does. When my husband and I moved here with our then 6-month-old son, the first thing we did was join newcomers. We still have friends that we met way back when. And the second thing I joined was the League of Women Voters. So I appreciate what you do and what you have been doing for years. Thank you.
What makes you the better candidate for alderperson in District 2?
I think it's my background and my experience. I am the incumbent alderperson. As such, I sit on the City Finance and Personnel Committee. I also, for years, have been on the Redevelopment Authority for the City of Sheboygan. I have been appointed by 5 mayors, so my longevity there is significant. For about half of those years, I have chaired that committee. I also am on the Joint Review Commission, which I sit on with the Sheboygan mayor, a representative from the school district, a representative from county board, and we ponder tax incremental financing districts for the city. So I have that as city experience. And we have raised 2 children here, both adults. My husband taught at the University of Wisconsin, teaching mathematics here in Sheboygan for a number of years. And we've both been involved in numerous nonprofit organizations. So I think that pretty much embeds me in this community, which we really like.
Thank you. So the roads in District 2 are in various stages of disrepair. The city has a timeline for resurfacing or replacing of most roads. Are you satisfied with the current plan and funding? And if not, how would you fund a more aggressive timeline?
Well, one, I can agree that the roads are in disrepair. They did not get that way overnight. They are where they are because of years of supposedly tightening the belt on our taxes, but we now have to pay for that. It's like owning a house. You buy the house, you have to repair your house and keep it up every year to just keep it habitable. So we need to spend some time and some energy on our infrastructure. Our city budget is 118 million or so. Every year we have to figure out what we do, make the priorities with our budget. Currently, there is a plan for repaving numerous roads. It is a plan. The next step is then you have to fund the plan. And we can fund it by our own tax base. We can fund it by borrowing. And the piece that probably has really put the crimp on it is the state shared revenues are decreasing and have been decreasing year after year. So we are getting fewer dollars returned to the community from the state. So it's not only a city issue, it's also a state issue. And we need to deal with that.
Advocate Aurora has 3 years from the opening of the new Aurora Hospital to demolish the current Memorial Hospital. What are your concerns about any potential uses for this property?
Well, I have previously been involved with Aurora tangentially. I was chair of the Aurora Visiting Nurse Association statewide for a number of years. I also, unbeknownst to many people, I was trained as an EMT. So I've kind of been embedded in hospitals and hospital issues for a time. I was also on the Hospital Rate Review Commission many years ago. I am familiar with the property. This summer, members of Advocate Aurora and me and Todd Wolf, the city manager, recorded a session together to explain to the neighbors and those who are interested to watch it what's going to happen, how it's going to happen. I've also been part of their programs at the neighborhood associations. Aurora has done a very good job of keeping the community involved in what they're doing. When the property is vacant, it will then be demolished eventually. There are a lot of things that need to be done before actually the bricks and mortar come down. They have 3 years to make that property habitable. So turning it into a vacant space that other people can develop. And we will call in developers. The thing that has been written into the contract with Advocate Aurora is that whatever goes there must be compatible with the neighborhood. So we are not likely to see a 5-story commercial building there. We're just not likely to do that. I have been asked, well, what is going to go there? Is it going to be private homes? Is it going to be apartments? That depends on the kind of developer proposals we get. And I have cautioned folks that developers come in and they do what is financially feasible for them to do. So for that, we're just going to have to wait to see what kind of proposals we get. The city will be at the table to determine what's going to go there and how it's going to take form. Also, through representation through those neighborhood organizations and individuals, they'll have a say. So I'm actually very excited about that. It will be one of the largest pieces of property the city has to develop in a very long time. So I'm excited. I think it's going to be great for the neighborhood.
Thank you. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, has been actively discussed over the past years in schools, businesses, and of course, government. What does DEI mean to you? And do you think the city should invest in programs and policies to promote it?
I do think the city should invest in programs and policies to promote it. First, let's do a little background. 73% of the city is white, and 98% of the city employees are white. So already we have a discrepancy there. We have a school district, the Sheboygan Area School District, that is now what we call a majority minority. Over 51% of the children in our schools are of color. So that tells you where the community is and where the community is going. And we need to be in the forefront for who we are currently and what we are becoming. So I would encourage, right now there is a committee that is putting together some strategies. There are also cities in the state of Wisconsin, Appleton being one, that specifically has a diversity, equity, and inclusion person on staff whose job it is to raise awareness and pull together the community behind the diversity, equity, and inclusion issues. So I think our starting point needs to be an awareness. Just knowing that 73% of the people are white, and we have a significant contributing population that needs to be represented, and currently it is not.
Thank you. So many small businesses have suffered during the pandemic. What can the city do to help?
Perfect. In one of my past lives, is what I call it, I was a business owner. I owned a company, Community Relations Consulting. I did PR and marketing. At one time, I had 4 employees, and it's difficult. It is difficult to continuously go out. I used to say, go out, kill the mastodon, drag it into the cave so that you can eat it. Okay. So these entrepreneurs have found it difficult. One of the things that the city is doing currently, and I would encourage all those entrepreneurs to inquire and see what's feasible. The city has a pool of money that came through the CARES Act that is available for businesses that have 5 or fewer employees. And I would encourage those businesses to take advantage of those funds to keep themselves going. The other is, one of the things that we have found out through COVID is that the city and the city government and the business partnership is really significant. And if they join, they can make things happen. Case in point, there was a city ordinance that said, no, you can't put things on the sidewalk. You can't put your tables on the sidewalk. You can't. Well, the only place that people could eat was outside. So through a series of negotiations, we were able to literally close the street, open it to eating, so that some of the businesses could continue to stay open and continue to employ their employees. So there are ways to do it, and we need to continue to help those folks.
Roberta, in the past few years, high lake levels have caused erosion, impacting both public and private properties. What do you feel is the city's responsibility to pay for mitigation efforts to protect the shoreline on private properties?
Interesting question. I have already been contacted. As you know, my district goes from Superior Avenue. It has 2 houses on Superior Avenue, the furthest east, and it goes all the way to the end of the city limits along the lakefront. So there are several private homeowners in my district that are very concerned about those lake levels. I was contacted by one just recently who obligingly sent me before, during, and after photos of erosion. It is significant and it is difficult. Couple things about the city. The city has the entire shoreline up and down the lake. And one of the most pressing issues is not a private issue, it's a public issue. Our sewer and water lines on the south side are now exposed. The dirt has fallen away, and the remediation is significant and increasingly important. So that is obviously getting the priority. It is getting the priority of funds because it must be done. And pause here. The lake levels have been this high before, and the city previously assisted homeowners in their ability to bring in riprap, bring in rocks, bring in backfill, and I'm not sure of the details, but I do know that it did occur. So there are ways and there are mechanisms. I figure my job is going to be to help those homeowners determine what their resources are, how they can use them, and in what category and what areas they need to be able to use them. So it's significant. Broughton Drive, which everyone drives up Broughton Drive on North Point. It has been underwater several times this season, and in a couple of those terrible storms, it has dumped rocks on the sidewalk. It has dumped rocks on the grass. So it's significant. It does not appear to be abating very soon. So we will have to use resources for that.
So you gave me a good segue into the next question. So we have two major utility related projects which are planned within the next 5 years: lining of major sanitary sewer pipes and new water intake pipes. So how is the city, given that they have these two utility related projects, and you just mentioned a third to us, how is the city going to minimize water and sewer rate increases? Or can they?
Okay, well, that's an interesting point. The water utility, it is a city water utility. However, the water utility will be financing through their water bills, which the city does not set, the utility and the Public Service Commission sets. So even our local utility does not have total control. When the water utility determined that some of the infrastructure, I should give a little background, some of the infrastructure is over 100 years old. I'm impressed that it's still there, okay? But some of the utilities infrastructure is significantly old. They have been working on a plan to redo that utility. They leased property from the city probably 4 or 5 years ago, right along the shoreline, because they need another building when they improve the infrastructure. And they are already applying for grants that, federal grants that will mitigate some of the costs of that utility. They are very conscious. I was talking to the chair of the Water Utility Board, and they are very conscious of costs and are doing everything they can to mitigate that. Sewers, I toured the wastewater treatment plant, something you want to do every day. I'm on the catwalk and I'm walking in and hearing, it is incredibly impressive. And from the very intake to the output, there are several open tanks. And I knew we were doing an incredibly good job when in the 4th or 5th tank, the closest to the lake, there were ducks swimming in the water. Now, I would not have thought it was possible to have those ducks swimming in the water, but they were. And we're really pretty proud at how clean the water is when it goes back into the lake. Those things require maintenance. There was a capital improvement project just this year to reline one of those tanks. And that's maintenance. It's that house again. You can't defer the hole in the roof, or pretty soon you've got an attic that needs replacing. So we'll have to figure it out. We'll have to figure out what we can do. Hopefully we can get some federal money in here, some federal aid, which may be coming through the last COVID Recovery Act. So being heads up about our priorities, I think, is also important.
Thank you. Thanks for that clarification too about whose responsibility paying for that will be. So not everybody in the Volrath Park neighborhood, which is part of your district, appreciates the summer food truck night. What are your feelings on food truck night, and should neighbors have a voice in whether this continues?
The neighbors have had a voice. I have heard their voice actually already because I was an alderperson in the first portion. Ironically, what I heard most significantly was the one evening when our mayor canceled the food truck night because people were not socially distancing, nor were they masked. And I heard all about that. Um, I, I appreciate food truck night. I think it builds community. It's impressive to see families on blankets all around that, all around the bowl. I think mitigating the hours. You can't park your food truck there too early. You have to take it away by such and such a time. Making sure that if there's music live or recorded, it doesn't blast and blare. Um, the trucks also have gone from North 2nd Street to park around the corner on Volrath. So they're extending and moving out where they are. I think that also helps. So I think, again, a combination. My husband and I actually went when the week after the food trucks had been canceled. We went and there were people saying, please stay away from each other. We want to keep the 6-foot distance. We want to stay here. We want to keep open. We want to be able to have this venue. The other thing I would say is people who have homes next to a park assume that there will be park activity in the middle of summer. And sometimes it can get out of hand, and I'm empathetic. If you live across the street from a park, you have to kind of assume there's going to be park activity. So it's a matter of keeping it within acceptable bounds and acceptable boundaries. And if it gets out of bounds, call me. People have. So I think that's important.
Thank you. So although the city has made significant strides towards the building of affordable housing, do we need to do more?
I think yes. The Redevelopment Authority has, which I chair, has been very active in a lot of the development of the apartments. And when I'm out and about, people say, oh, we are building so many apartments. Do we need more apartments? And I say, yes. The problem statement has been, we can't afford some of those rents. So the Badger Lofts, which was the old tannery building, is affordable housing. The Oscar Apartments, which is on the south side on the previous Vandervaart property, will be family housing, affordable family housing. So we are making strides. There was a recent housing study done. We are making strides. We can do more. And I think we need to do more. The other thing that I would mention is we have a lot of landlord tenant properties. And I think our ability to keep those properties well maintained, so it's a healthy and safe place for families to live, I think is also important. Our housing stock in some areas of the city is very old. So it gets to be harder and harder to keep repairing. But there are groups that do that. There are lots of nonprofits that help with housing. And I think a focused, concerted effort. The Habitat for Humanity homes on Erie Avenue was a concerted effort by the city because we understood that the houses in that particular area were overpopulated and underkept. And through a consortium of private industry, city, and nonprofits, we now have a lovely set of homes, and 2 more are coming. So that's what's possible, and that's that's what we need to focus on moving forward.
Thank you. The city has adopted a $3.7 million master plan for improvements to the J.C. Quarry Park. Are you in favor of this expenditure, and how will we pay for it?
The park is currently run by a business. The city does not run it. The city leases it to be run. And I saw the park proposal. I read through it. My only comment was there is an area, very well designed, I might add, preserves and enhances the trail around the Quarry Park. I was not aware that the trail went completely around the quarry. And my husband and I laughingly did an alderman tour, and we walked around the quarry this summer so that I could actually scope it out. We need to be a little bit careful that it doesn't become too commercialized. And if we decide to have a restaurant and we decide that that restaurant can serve beer, would have an alcohol license, again, keeping track of the time and the hours and being able to have the proper boundaries, because there are houses and open water reflects all kinds of noise. So our ability to enhance and not overwhelm commercially, I think, is significant. The quarry is a natural. It's a spring-fed quarry. So and it's one of our nicer areas. My children and I used to go there every afternoon in the heat of the summer and swim. So we go for 45 minutes and they go in the water and we dry off and we get in the car and we go home. So I'd like to see that for the next generations also.
Last question. So what kind of development would you like to see on the former Armory site?
Oh, fun. I was actually a member of the group of people who reviewed all of the applications from the developers for the redevelopment of the Armory. I believe there were either 9 or 11, I can't remember now. And we categorized them, we put them into hierarchy order. I actually gave the presentation to the council with the results. And we had recommended a small boutique hotel. Again, fitting into the neighborhood, no more than 3 stories high. If you notice, the Armory is on an incline, so 3 stories wouldn't even get you to the height of the houses on the road behind it. So it would fit in. And again, the site looks big, but the developer footprint, the developer still needs to be able to financially make it work. And so there's going to have to be some density. And when you use that word, everybody gets anxious, but well planned. There will have to be some density on that site. And we were particularly interested in keeping the main level, so keeping street level available to all the citizens. So if it was a hotel, we said, will you put your bar and restaurant on that first floor so that people not in your hotel can also access your hotel? One of the proposals had a shop for water equipment, scuba diving kinds of things. So there are ways to make that property reflect where it is. I am a big proponent of our lakefront is our most important asset. And I think we need to be very cautious and very intentional about what we do, how we do it, and and maintain access for everybody. It's everybody's lake. So I am hoping as we watch the building come down, I am hoping that when that property is cleared, people's minds will start thinking creatively. What else can we put there? And I would expect another round of development proposals for that.
Thank you. And thank you so much for taking the time to interview with us today, Roberta.
Well, you're welcome.
The League of Women Voters strongly encourages all who are eligible to vote in the upcoming election on April 6th. If you are not registered to vote, you may sign up easily on myvote.wi.gov, or you may contact your local municipal clerk for more information. Other LeagueTV interviews may be found on our website, including conversations with candidates for mayor and the Sheboygan Area School District Board of Education. Again, Roberta, thank you. Best of luck in your campaign and in the election.
My pleasure. Thank you.